Hello and good evening, everyone. I am Prem.
Syuhada.
Atma.
Sharil.
Going to present about the function of sulfuric acid in pulp and paper industry. So let's get started. Okay, what is sulfuric acid actually? Is it a type of juice or it is an important ingredient for cooking? No, none of them. It is actually a type of acid that contains the element of hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur in it. This is the characteristic of the sulfuric acid. The, First of all, it is colorless. Then it is odorless, and it is very polar liquid and very reactive towards metals. Finally, it has very high electric conductivity. That's why we can use it as the electrolyte in electrolysis process because it has freely moving ions in the liquid. Okay, moving on to the next slide. These are the example of some reaction of sulfuric acid with some kind of metals. The picture shows that an iron nail, which represents the ferrometal, reacting with the sulfuric acid to produce hydrogen gas and a type of salt called ferrum sulfate. The bubbles represents the hydrogen gas in the experimental tube. Okay, how's the sulfuric acid made? Okay, this is a long process called the contact process. I will explain the process briefly. First of all, the sulfur will burn in air with oxygen to form sulfur dioxide, SO2. Then the sulfur dioxide will react with the excess oxygen in a type of condition which is 450 Celsius and 1 atm with the catalyst called vanadium oxide. Then it will produce sulfur trioxide, SO3, as a result. Then the sulfur trioxide will dissolve in concentrated H2SO4, which is the sulfuric acid itself, to form oleum, H2H2O7. The oleum then will dilute with water and reacts with it to form sulfuric acid, H2SO4. Okay, here are the some of application of sulfuric acid in real life. We can use the sulfuric acid as a toilet cleaner to clean our toilet easily. Then we can use it as a lab users to conduct experiments in school and laboratories. Then we can use it as a fertilizer to neutralize the alkalic soil to contribute in agriculture activities. Then we can use it in paper and pulp industry, which we will discuss and explain further about it in this presentation. Now I will hand out this presentation to Syuhada to explain it further. Thanks.
Okay, what is pulp and paper industry? It is the companies that use wood as raw material and produce pulp, paper, paperboard, and other cellulose-based products. The largest industrial process water user is in the United States, and its manufacturing activities will release toxic substance. Manufacturing activities will release of many toxic substances into the surrounding communities, and it will pollute air, water, land, and mainly in the pulping and bleaching stages. The process of pulping consists of the initial processing, washing, and bleaching. Pulping is classified as chemical, mechanical, or semi-chemical, and of the chemical pulping methods, the craft and sulfite processes are the most widely used. Bleaching is accomplished through elemental chlorine free, or totally chlorine free bleaching. The waste stream from bleaching contains chlorine compounds and organics that result in the formation of dioxins, furans, and chlorinated organics. This waste stream of toxic air and water pollutants does not get treated at water treatment plants, accumulating in the discharge body of water. The pulp and paper industry consumes a significant amount of water to do the process of bleaching, and the energy and produces wastewater with a high concentration of chemical oxygen demand. COD. The recent studies underline as an appropriate pre-treatment of the wastewater is cost-effective solution for the removal of COD and the reduction of the pressures on the aquatic environment. Next. This is the general process in manufacturing pulp and paper. Paper is made through the following processes. First, pulping procedure will be done to separate and clean the fibers. Second, refining procedure will be followed after pulping processes. Third, dilution process to form a thin fiber mixture. Fourth, formation of fibers on a thin screen. Fifth, pressurization to enhance the material's density. Sixth, drying to eliminate the density of materials. And lastly, finishing procedure to provide a suitable surface for usage. Next. This is the differences between pulp and paper. Pulp is a clean, wood-based, renewable and biodegradable raw material. It is used to produce paper, tissue, board and especially paper. This is a truly sustainable bioproduct. Paper, as we know, is a sheet used for printing or writing. It is made by cellulose fibers from wood chips. And did you know that pulp is also a big part of our everyday life? Some examples where pulp is consumed is in the label and stickers, napkins, handkerchiefs, towels, and toilet rolls. Next. Okay, this is the function of sulfuric acid. Paper is an attractive translucent paper. Its translucence lets it reveals a hint of what is underneath and to show background color. Here are some ways you can use sulfuric acid paper inside your bullet journal or to store craft materials, as we can see in the pictures. Okay. Next.
Next, the process of paper and pulp production. Okay, so basically, paper production is a two-step process in which a fibrous raw material, the wood, is first converted into pulp and then the pulp is converted into paper. I will explain more on that later on the next slide through a video. Okay, so from the video, firstly, debarking and chipping process. Debarking here means the process of removing bark from its wood. To kickstart the pulping process, the logs are debarked. The bark has to be stripped from the logs since it cannot be used in paper making. Next stage is chemical and mechanical pulping. This process breaks down the chemical called lignin in the wood, and the result is pulp. Then cleaning. After being mashed, screened, and dried, the pulp can be used to make high-volume commodity printing products, such as magazine paper and newspaper. But to be turned into paper, the pulp needs a little bit more work. So after that head box stage, the pulp is pumped into a large paper making machine. Starting at the first section called the head box, the pulp mass is squirted through a horizontal slit over a moving wire mesh to remove excess water. The next one is wire section. Here, the fibers begin to spread out and take the form of a thin sheet, giving this part of the process its name, sheet formation. Then, press section. Moving at almost 90 kilometers an hour, this is where up to 50% of the water content is squeezed out. Up to 90% of water in this entire manufacturing process is also recycled. Now we move to drying stage. The sheets are dried at above 100 degrees Celsius over a series of cast iron cylinders. However, this is not the end process of paper making. The next stage is converting. A film of chemicals is applied to the surface of the dried paper to improve the properties of the paper before being wound onto wide jumbo reels. Finally, finishing and packaging. The smaller sheets of paper are then further processed before being wrapped and packed into packaging, before being stacked into cartons and shipped worldwide.
I will continue the next part, sulfuric acid used in pulp and paper industry. The sulfuric acid can be used for chlorine dioxide generation, tall oil splitting, and pH adjustment. Okay, so the first user of sulfuric acid is chlorine dioxide generation. So we use sulfuric acid to process the chlorine dioxide using the Solvay process. You can see at the bottom of the slide the chemical equation that shows the 4H2SO4 is used as a reactant to produce 4ClO2, that is chlorine dioxide. So H2SO4, we can look at the picture. We use the H2SO4 with H2O to generate the chlorine dioxide. So chlorine dioxide is very important to the paper and pulp industry because we use the ClO2 to attack the lignin without degrading cellulose, increased yield and higher strength bleached paper. So the paper that we bleach using the ClO2 is very quality and strength paper, and it's also less tendency to revert in color. Next slide. So the second, we use sulfuric acid in tall oil splitting. Tall oil that we can know is a yellow-black odorous liquid obtained as by a product of the craft process of pulp manufacture. So when we extract the tall oil, we need the sulfuric acid to produce the tall oil into fatty hydrogen acid, so that we can obtain the tall oil. So we can use the tall oil to make a compound of rubbers, inks, and as an emulsifier. Next slide. Sulfuric acid used is pH adjustment. In the process of making paper and pulp, we have to obtain the right and suitable pH to get the right paper that we want. So ionization process transform wood into cellulosic fibers for tissue product production. So the water waste that we determine the pH, so we can know the paper that we want to know to produce is a toilet paper or the strong paper that we can use for printing. So we also have to use the get the pH condition is in acidic to remove lignin at the chlorine dioxide generation. So that's all. Thank you.
Nice explanation, Sharil. Thank you, everyone. This is the end of our discussion. Love you all. Bye.